Spring Creek, Nevada is the kind of place where distance stretches in every direction. Long roads, wide land, few neighbors. On Sunday, March 8, 2020, a teenage girl did what she had done many times before. She left home for the afternoon with someone her family trusted. She told her father she would be back later, possibly even before him. But as the evening wore on, something felt off. Calls went unanswered. Messages stayed unread. That was not normal. By nightfall, concern turned into fear. By the next morning, the question was no longer when she would come home. It was where she had gone. As word spread through Elko County, neighbors began searching open land and desert roads. Law enforcement followed a lead involving a stranger and a pickup truck. For days, that story shaped everything. But the truth, when it surfaced, was far closer than anyone expected. And once investigators understood where to look, the case changed completely. Welcome back to Dark Case Storytime. We bring you new true crime documentaries every single week, so make sure you are subscribed and all notifications are turned on. And now let's get straight into today's video. Spring Creek sits in Elko County in the northeastern corner of Nevada. It is rural, open, defined by ranchland, mining work, and rodeo culture. For families who live there, independence is learned early. So is trust. Brittany Ujlaky lived in Spring Creek with her father, Jim Ujlaky. After her parents divorced, Brittany chose to stay with him. Brittany was the oldest of his children. He spoke openly about how becoming her father changed his life, how it grounded him, how it gave him direction. Jim worked as a gold miner. The hours were long, the work was demanding, but by every account, his relationship with his daughter was close, exceptionally close. Friends described their home as a place where people came and went freely. Brittany's friends spent time there often. Some of them had known her since middle school. Jim trusted those friendships. He had no reason not to. Those who knew Brittany describe her as confident and self-possessed. She stood straight. She spoke directly. Horses were a constant in her life. She spent hours riding, helping with livestock, being outdoors. Friends said being a cowgirl was not just an activity for her. It was a mindset. At the same time, Brittany enjoyed makeup and social media. She liked experimenting with different looks. Friends often asked her to help them get ready for big events. She moved comfortably between those worlds. Most importantly, Brittany was consistent. She checked in. She answered her phone. She kept her father updated on where she was. That consistency would later become one of the clearest warning signs that something was wrong. In school, things were not always easy. Her parents later said she dealt with bullying. Eventually, she switched to homeschooling. Despite that, she stayed connected to her friends. She spent time with them regularly, often getting rides from people she had known for years. One of those people was Bryce Dickey. They had met through the local rodeo scene. He was older than her and described by many as quiet and shy. To Brittany's family, he was familiar, trusted. Sunday began like many others. Brittany accompanied her father to his band practice that afternoon. It was something she had done before. She liked to give feedback, sometimes bluntly. After a while, she grew bored. The musicians were older. The rehearsal dragged on. Brittany made plans to leave early. She contacted Bryce Dickey. He agreed to pick her up. This was not unusual. He had driven her places many times before. Her father had no concerns. Before she left, Brittany told Jim she would be home later, possibly even before him. She got into Dickie's truck in the afternoon. The two spent several hours driving around the area, talking, passing time. At some point, Brittany asked to be dropped off. According to Dickie, she wanted to meet someone new. He later told investigators that he left her near Spring Creek High School. He said he watched her walk toward another vehicle. At the time, that explanation raised no immediate alarm. Jin stayed at practice, then went to dinner with the band. He assumed Brittany was already on her way home. By early evening, that assumption began to feel wrong. As Jim drove home that night, he tried calling Brittany. It went to voicemail. He called again and again. That was not normal. Brittany always answered or called back quickly. By the third unanswered call, Jim felt panic set in. When he arrived home, Brittany was not there. Her phone was off. There were no messages. He began calling people she might be with. Friends, family members. He contacted Brittany's mother. She had not seen her either. Her younger brother reached out to Bryce Dickey. He asked when Bryce had last seen her. Bryce repeated the same account. He said he dropped Brittany off earlier that afternoon. As the hours passed, concern spread quickly through the family. This was not a missed curfew. This was a disappearance. Later that night, Jim contacted authorities. A missing person report was initiated. By the following morning, deputies were working off the only concrete lead they had, a location near the high school, and a story involving a stranger. At that point, no one yet understood how misleading that story would be.
So, kind of run me through it so I can understand what's going on.
All right, so Sunday, around 11,
okay.
I started texting, got a few texts from Brittany, just asked if I wanted to hang out. Said sure, got ready and stuff. Told me she could meet me at Angel Park because she said her dad was doing band practice. And then went to town, called her when I got into town on 5th, and then picked her up at Angel Park, drove around, went up towards Mountain View, asked what she wanted to do, said she had no idea, said, why don't we just go drive around to Spring Creek since we got more room over there. So we went back over the hill, just started chatting, talked about her finishing school, how school was going for me, kept driving around, and then we were over in the Horse Palace section, and my dad called me asking if I could come back home. So I told her I needed to go. Asked her if she wanted me to just drop her back off at Angel Park, and she said that she wanted me to drop her off at the high school to meet her new friend, and said her dad was going to pick her up later. So then came over here, pulled in right over there, gave her a hug and stuff, and then she got out. I pulled out and then started heading that way.
From the beginning, one detail stood out. Bryce Dickey told investigators that Brittany had chosen to meet someone else, someone new. He described a man he said he did not know, tall, wearing a cowboy hat. According to Bryce, the man was driving an older green pickup truck, a Ford F-150. He said Brittany walked toward the truck, got inside, and drove away. That account shaped the entire early investigation. Deputies began searching records for matching vehicles. They asked the public for tips. They tracked down similar trucks across the region. In a place like Elko County, green pickups were common. Cowboy hats were common. The description was broad, too broad. Still, it was the only lead available. Friends repeated the story. Family members repeated it. Searchers kept the image in mind as they scanned roads and desert pullouts. On social media, people asked the same questions. Who was the man? Why had no one seen him before? As days passed, the lack of confirmation became noticeable. No one could identify the truck. No one came forward as JT. No records matched the description. Quietly, investigators began to suspect that the story itself might be the problem. While investigators chased leads, the search on the ground expanded. Brittany's family did not wait. Friends joined in immediately. They drove back roads, checked pull-offs, walked open stretches of land. The terrain made everything harder. Miles of desert, sparse landmarks, little cell service. Jim drove his truck through remote areas, scanning the land, looking for anything out of place. He later said he felt something shift inside him during those searches. A sense that the outcome would not be what he hoped for. Still, no one stopped looking. Deputies coordinated efforts. Volunteers continued showing up. 3 days passed. Then, during one of those searches, someone noticed something unnatural in the desert. A blue tarp. Authorities were called to the location. At that point, the search for Brittany ended, and the investigation entered a new phase. Her time on this earth was ended.
Yeah. Uh-oh. See that? Yep. That's not good. Oh, that's a 1092. That's a body. Yeah. Let's get out. Yep. I can see enough right now. Looks like a girl's hand. Let's back out. Yeah, that's a... Yeah. I will. I'm going to get their vehicles out. We'll get the crime scene secured and call stake. Let's go out the same way. Yep. We'll process the whole thing. All right. Hey, Nick. We got a female body. We have a female body. I don't know if it's her or what, but we have a female body out behind Burner Basin. Got drag marks and a bunch of things. So we had 2 guys that found them. We're getting their statements. I'll get a picture of their footprints that are going in and out, and I'll get a picture of their tread marks. Basically, she face down, pants down. She's got black heels on, like boots on. Let's grab. We'll get tire print from them, and then also take their shoe prints because they went in there. Okay. For exclusion. Exclusion purposes, yeah. Sounds good to me. Sorry, you guys got to go through this. This is what I do.
The worst part is I know her dad.
From that moment forward, every detail mattered. The location was a remote area outside of Spring Creek, away from homes, away from traffic. When deputies arrived, they confirmed what the family feared. Brittany had been found. Her time on this earth came to a close there in the desert. Investigators secured the scene immediately. What had been a missing person case was now something very different. The area was documented carefully. The surrounding ground was examined. Nothing was moved without record. Word reached the sheriff's office, then the family. Brittany's mother was there when investigators received confirmation. She later said she could not stand. Her body simply stopped responding. For Jim, the news brought a painful clarity. The uncertainty was over, but the loss was permanent. Deputies began working backward. They needed to understand how Brittany ended up there, and who had last been with her. The answers, they believed, would come from evidence. And the desert had not been as silent as it first appeared. At the scene, investigators documented multiple items. Some appeared ordinary at first. Others immediately raised questions. Everything was collected, bagged, logged. Forensic testing followed. As results came back, patterns started to form. Investigators also reviewed digital records, phone data, location information, surveillance footage from nearby roads. Those records told a story that did not align with the earlier account.
Did she say anything about anyone that she was having problems with, or any people that she was interested in, or anything like that?
We all knew she was talking to some guy that we think was in New York, but she'd been talking to him for a while.
Okay.
Besides that, and then, like I told everyone else, a lot of people had problems with Brittany, but nothing that we would see with this outcome.
Sure. Well, hopefully, yeah. Okay. And now's not the time to hold back words, man.
Yeah.
Did she have a bad reputation or something like that?
With a lot, because she used to get in a lot of fights, and a lot of people didn't like. Brittany was a very straightforward person.
Okay.
And a lot of people didn't like that because she was very blunt and honest.
Okay.
So a lot of people disliked her.
They just didn't like how forward she was, and she really didn't hold back, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Is
right.
it primarily females or male and female?
Male and female. We went through, kind of did like the full circle, went through over by the sports complex in Spring Creek. And then I had to go back home to my dad's house, so I asked her if she wanted me to drop her off back at Angel Park or where her dad was having practice. And then she was on her phone for about 30 seconds-ish, and then asked me if she'd drop her off at the high school to meet her new friend.
Did she give any indication, of who she may have been talking to or anything like that?
No, she just described a new friend, but also, same thing, Brittany was always finding new friends. I mean, she had a new best friend probably about every month or so.
Okay.
Video showed a truck matching Bryce Dickey's vehicle traveling past the high school. It did not stop. Location data placed Brittany and Bryce together longer than he had initially stated. Investigators compared timestamps, statements, movements. The gaps became impossible to ignore. When Bryce was asked again to explain his timeline, details shifted. Small changes at first, then larger ones. Eventually, investigators requested a DNA sample. Bryce agreed. When results were returned, they directly connected him to the scene. At that point, the investigation narrowed quickly. The unknown cowboy, the green truck, the stranger named JT, none of it could be verified. What could be verified was far more troubling. The focus turned fully to the last confirmed person to see Brittany alive. With the evidence pointing in one direction, investigators brought Bryce Dickey in again. By this point, the story about the unknown cowboy had fully collapsed. No vehicle, no witness, no records. Surveillance footage showed Bryce's truck traveling away from where he said he dropped Brittany off. Digital location data placed them together far longer than he had admitted. When confronted with those facts, Bryce changed his account. He acknowledged that he and Brittany had gone into a remote area. He admitted that there had been intimate contact. Investigators did not accept the explanation as given. The forensic evidence told a different story, one that did not support consent. Brittany had been disgustingly violated, and her life was ended afterward. What investigators could not determine was a clear motive, only that Bryce had been someone Brittany trusted, someone her family trusted. In the days after her disappearance, Bryce had stayed close to the family. He joined searches, attended vigils, posted public messages of grief. That behavior later took on a very different meaning. Once the evidence was laid out in full, detectives believed they had no other viable suspect. An arrest followed. Bryce Dickey was taken into custody and formally charged. The case moved slowly through the court system. Delays were common. Proceedings were technical. At trial, prosecutors focused on physical evidence, digital records, timeline inconsistencies. They did not rely on speculation. The defense argued there were no eyewitnesses, that the case was circumstantial. The jury heard the evidence, reviewed the records, listened to testimony. After deliberation, they returned a guilty verdict. Bryce Dickey was convicted. He received a life sentence with the possibility of parole decades in the future. For Brittany's family, the outcome did not bring relief. They had lost a daughter, a sister, a presence that could not be replaced. The legal process had ended, but the consequences would last forever. Here is what is clear. Brittany Ujlaky did not leave voluntarily. She did not disappear into the desert on her own. She was betrayed by someone she trusted, someone already inside her circle. What remains unclear are the moments no one else saw, the decisions made in isolation, the exact point where everything changed. For her family, those questions remain unanswered. What does remain is Brittany's memory, a young woman rooted in open land and open skies, whose life was ended far too soon. And in Spring Creek, Nevada, March 8, 2020 is a date that will never fade.